Can feel life moving through your mind. Ooh, looks like you came up for more. Yeah, I can feel time slipping down your spine. Ooh, you try to ignore. Yeah! Can you tell I really like this game? There's a unanimous agreement amongst the Sonic fanbase that the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise has gone through many a series of ups and downs. While the downs have been heavily criticized, even by people outside of the fanbase, what the Sonic fanbase can unanimously agree on is that when SEGA gets a Sonic game right, they get it right. So because of this, many people will hold at least one or two, or maybe several, Sonic games close to their hearts as some of their all-time favorite video games. For people who prefer the classic formula, favorites will most likely be Sonic 3 and Knuckles and or Sonic Mania. For those who prefer handheld titles, the games that hold special place in their hearts will likely be the Sonic Rush series and the Sonic Advance series. And for the more modern fans, those games will likely be Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, Sonic Frontiers, and even the most recently successful and heart-wrenching Shadow Generations. But for me, I will always hold Sonic Adventure 2 in a special place in my heart. You see, this is a hot take as far as Sonic the Hedgehog related opinions go, but maybe it's not, depending on your niche taste, but I always liked the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise above most platformer titles, mainly because the people at SEGA were not afraid to take chances, and they were willing to learn from their mistakes, and they were willing to wear their mistakes on their sleeves in a productive manner. Not to mention, the Sonic stories were willing to go to a more mature route, even if they were being edgy for the sake of being edgy. You could sense that they were trying to make something meaningful out of the games that they were making. Many people would prefer the games that have a minimal story and just get straight to the point of the fun gameplay. Because, frustratingly enough, I appreciate the narratives of some of the games from the dark age of Sonic's history, and unfortunately said games, whilst they have engaging plots, have lackluster gameplay compared to the predecessors. And yet, Sonic Adventure 2 remains to have a firm, good, healthy balance between gameplay and story. There have been many games I've come across that came close to surpassing Sonic Adventure 2 in my opinion, whether that be Sonic Frontiers and Shadow Generations, or even Sonic Mania. They came close, but nothing will top Sonic Adventure 2 for me. Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, yeah, hot take. Now, I will admit, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle does have a few share of flaws. If you're a PC player, those flaws can easily be fixed via modding and other such things, if you have access to that kind of thing. But by default, this game's biggest flaws mainly revolve around the music being way too loud during the cutscenes.
So totally embarrassing.
Don't forget your end of the bargain, Batgirl. What about that last case and room?
What was that?
We had a deal, right?
Huh?
Off the ground! I'll take care of the police while you try and find a way out of here.
Speak up! I can't hear you!
The inside of the minds to be like this. This is gonna be tougher than I thought.
Could you turn the music down? I'm trying to listen to what they're trying to say! Not to mention, there are a few awkward elements with the game. Whilst the game does have a great strength in being simple to learn yet hard to master, the controls might be a bit too simplistic at times, with one action button being the default for the vast majority of actions. True, you can switch which actions you choose via another button, but it can be rather frustrating when you want to do one action but your character does another. This can be particularly frustrating given the nature of a fast-paced game such as this. But even so, despite this game's setbacks, which people online have acknowledged, I'd still say that Sonic Adventure 2 Battle is one of the best video games ever made. Because I remember a certain drinking critic once mentioned about Big Trouble in Little China that your favorite film is like wearing a familiar pair of boots. For me, playing this game again is like wearing a familiar pair of sunglasses. Or a specific pair of trainers, whatever you prefer. It's the kind of game that just gets you in the groove, gets you in the momentum, and makes you feel good. This game balances fun, replayable gameplay with a pretty engaging narrative that starts off light-hearted but gets surprisingly dark as it goes along. And the game's biggest highlight is the introduction of Shadow the Hedgehog, as well as the Chao Garden. So what is Sonic Adventure 2 all about? Well, before I begin with the premise, I should note that what stands out as something special about this game is that despite being a sequel to Sonic Adventure, a revolutionary 3D platformer, this game's plot stands out well on its own, despite one or two mentions to previous events, but you can play this game without knowing the prior events. You can still get the basic idea of what's going on. So why don't we read the back in the most epic voice possible?
Dun dun! There is a new threat to civilization, even more powerful than the infamous Dr. Eggman. An immortal capable of overthrowing Sonic for good. His name, Shadow the Hedgehog. With the help of his dark allies, our Sonic lookalike is causing unimaginable destruction. Has Sonic finally met his match? In the most thrilling Sonic adventure ever created, featuring a host of Nintendo GameCube exclusive enhancements, or Steam enhancements if you're playing it on PC, you decide the outcome. Choose to join the dark side and conquer the world, or join Sonic, overcome this new evil reign, and restore peace to the galaxy.
When did this become Star Wars? Light side, dark side, well, I guess monomyth comparisons are inevitable, right? Allow me to give you a more detailed version of the premise. So Dr. Eggman has come up with his latest scheme to take over the world after he was rummaging about and found his grandfather's diary, his grandfather being Dr. Robotnik. Curious to find out the secrets of this Project Shadow that was mentioned in his grandfather's diary, Dr. Eggman raids a GUN base and decides to uncover this weapon for himself. When he unleashes it, he finds that this weapon is a sentient hedgehog, like Sonic, but darker. Yeah, just go with it. Amazed at Shadow's energetic powers that are highly correlated with the Chaos Emeralds, Shadow insists that Eggman bring more Chaos Emeralds and meet him at the space colony Ark, where his grandfather used to work. As Shadow is going about causing chaos, Sonic gets wrongly framed and is taken in by GUN. However, just because Sonic gets bored, he hightails out of there and enters one of the best opening levels in any video game ever. Seriously, City Escape is awesome, and what a way to start a game. Unfortunately, Sonic encounters Shadow and gets caught by GUN. Sonic notices that Shadow has incredible teleportation capabilities empowered by the energetic Chaos Emeralds, and Sonic seems to have finally met his match. So Sonic once again teams up with his friends Tails, Knuckles, and, to his disgruntlement, Amy Rose, while Shadow teams up with Dr. Eggman and treasure hunter / secret government agent Rouge the Bat to get involved in a scheme of gathering the Chaos Emeralds to empower the Eclipse Cannon, which can threaten to destroy the Earth. Yeah, the Star Wars references might be a bit more on the nose than the Death Egg robot, than the Death Egg station from Sonic 2, which was already on the nose because it had a long nose. So that's the basic premise without giving too much away if you haven't already played it, which I'd highly recommend. The story is split into three campaigns, with a third campaign unlocked after completing the Hero in the Dark campaign, with the final campaign culminating into an epic conclusion of teaming up together and redemption. This entire story is a celebration of redemption, if you ask me. Each campaign is split up mainly into 3 types of gameplay. Well, there's also 4, but there's 3 that are the main highlights. The first and most obvious are the speed segments with Sonic and Shadow. These are definitely the main highlights, and they have a great balance between platforming and high speed. You see, something I've noticed about what people say about the boost-related Sonic games is that as much as they are exhilarating and making you go fast, a lot of the boost-related games, not all of them, but most of them, tend to miss out on the intricacies of fine platforming in the same way that the classic Sonic games did. Although, the classic Sonic games, especially the first Sonic game, tend to slow the pace a bit too much for the sake of platforming, which was clearly not the main highlight of this kind of game. Sonic Adventure 2 gets the balance right, where there's fine platforming, yet also high speed, and not to mention the jank that comes with the game can lead to a lot of awesome tricks. Yes, the replay value in this game is definitely a highlight, as this game doesn't give you grade A so easily like in Sonic Generations. No. In this kind of game, and in Shadow Generations arguably, you have to earn that rank A. The game rewards you not just with the rings you collect and the enemies you defeat, but also rewards you for the amount of flourish and tricks you can do like a skateboard pro as you go along the level. The game actively encourages you to complete the level not just as fast as possible, but with as much style as possible. That's what leads to a lot of fun replay value to just try to get it right. The other two stage types do follow this kind of philosophy, although they are more slow-paced compared to Sonic and Shadow. But they nevertheless have their fun quirks as well, because I personally like to play games where there's different variety of characters with different abilities. The second kind of stage are the mech stages, where you play as Tails and Dr. Eggman in their respective mechs. In here, you can hover around and blast as many different robots as possible using powerful mechs and progress from point A to point B. And then the final type of stage is the treasure hunting stages, which are more semi-open world oriented levels where you can play as Knuckles the Echidna and or Rude the Bat as they go about hunting for different parts of the Master Emerald or different MacGuffin items to progress the plot. Knuckles and Rouge is more open-ended compared to the other two playstyles that focus on getting from point A to point B, as your whole purpose of the treasure hunting stages is to find all the different pieces that you're looking for. Now, there is a lot of fun in the fact that you can glide around and climb around and explore these open worlds rather freely. However, people do find the motion tracking system rather annoying. It is helpful, but at times, the way you find Master Emeralds can be a little bit annoying. It's not the worst thing ever, but it can be a wee bit on the tricky side. There is a fourth type of gameplay throughout both campaigns, which is not emphasized so much here, although it does say on the back, to be honest. There are classic kart racing segments. Now, these kart racing segments are not really your Sonic racing type of games, or nor would they compete with Mario Kart any time of day, but they do have this quality that is very similar to the F-Zero games. So if you're into that kind of racing game, then you're bound to have fun with these kart racing games, and they don't dominate the game too much. One of the absolute highlights of the game is the Chow Garden. In between stages, you have the option to collect specific items, and if you collect a Chow key in certain levels, you gain access to the Chow Garden, where you can literally enter one of the most immersive pet simulators in an already fantastic game. Even the people who don't like Sonic Adventure 2 admit that the Chow Garden is a lot of fun. And it's just so adorable and heartwarming to raise your own Chow, to feed it these Chaos Drives and also these fruits so that their stamina and different abilities can grow, give it different animals so it can get different features, and you can raise them to be different kind of Chows with different kind of strengths, as well as excel at certain sports such as racing and karate, especially if you've got the Battle Edition. The Battle Edition also fixes certain issues regarding the music and the audio, but not to a great extent, unfortunately.
England, England, Alabama. England, England, Alabama. England, England, Alabama. It's the circle of life, and it rules us all. Check us out. Look at how fast he runs.
Not to mention, there's also a two-player versus mode, which is also quite fun enough itself. So yes, there is a lot of fun to be had, a lot of replay value, and honestly, I love this game so much. I've played on both GameCube and PC. It's just that much fun. Of course, the main highlight of this overall game is the introduction of Shadow the Hedgehog, one of the most beloved characters in the entire franchise. Yes, Shadow has been critiqued as being an emo edgelord character, and that was pretty evidently clear in his own spin-off game where the team at SEGA were desperately trying to be dark and edgy for the sake of being dark and edgy.
Where's that damn fourth Chaos Emerald?
Aw, are you edgy? Is you a little edgy edgelord?
But even despite these setbacks, Shadow is still a beloved character because out of all the characters in the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, Shadow has one of the best narratives in the entire story. Shadow the Hedgehog is an anti-hero, and he's got his own internal struggles and his grudges against humanity, especially with what humanity did to his beloved friend Maria Robotnik. However, through a series of events, Shadow eventually finds redemption in saving humanity in the end. What makes Shadow such an inspiring character is that despite everything humanity has done, in the end he still chooses to save humanity. And it gives Shadow a lot of depth of character, and this depth is further added upon in later games. Honestly, this game feels like a whole complete arc for Shadow the Hedgehog just by itself.
Beneath all the Hot Topic mascot jokes, Shadow is actually an interesting character. An artificially created hedgehog made with the purpose of finding a cure for an ailing little girl's disease. Sadly, he failed. The reason Shadow really earned the title as Sonic's arch rival is because they really do feel like two sides of the same coin. Shadow's obviously more serious and grouchy, but he shares a bit of Sonic's cockiness to the point where he arrogantly says that Sonic's copying him. Yet at the same time, you can tell there's no real malice between them, and their friendly rivalry enables Shadow to grow past the edgy marketing.
And yeah, Shadow the Hedgehog was such a beloved character that they brought him back. But fortunately, Shadow has had some pretty engaging narratives, especially with Shadow Generations. But even still, this game serves as a great standalone character arc for Shadow in general. It's a fantastic finale. Oh, and did I also mention the music is great? The music is great! Not only does the music get you thrilled to go fast, but there's also different varieties of music for the different characters, which is very suitable for them if you ask me. Okay, you may find one or two of the music styles a little bit odd in choice, but they still fit the characters overall. Oh, come on, you all have a grin on your face when you hear some of these theme songs. Especially tunes from Crash 40! So, in light of the third Sonic the Hedgehog live-action movie coming out, which will be a loose adaptation of this game, I'd highly recommend you play this game if you haven't already. It's just a brilliant balance between narrative and gameplay, and it's just so much fun. I give this game an 11 out of 12. Yes, there are major flaws, but the strengths more than make up for its flaws. It's just that good, if you ask me. What do you think about Sonic Adventure 2 or Sonic Adventure 2 Battle? Let me know down in the comments down below, and I look forward to a conversation with you. In the meantime, ScotsThinker signing out. Cue the music!